This weekend, we have the pleasure of welcoming a great friend and classmate of mine who will be leading our parish mission on Tuesday evening. And so I'd like you to join me in welcoming Bishop Ron Hicks from the Diocese of Joliet in Illinois.
Thank you for that kind welcome, and since I've arrived yesterday, for your fantastic hospitality. My name is Ron Hicks. I'm 55 years old. I grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago at St. Jude the Apostle Parish in South Holland. After I graduated from college in 1989, I went to Mexico for 1 year to, learn Spanish, but two, to volunteer in a Catholic orphanage that cared for orphaned and abandoned children. In 1990, I entered the major seminary to start my studies as a priest, and on the very first day, I met a classmate named David Boatner, and we have been friends ever since. Father Boatner and I were both ordained in 1994, he for Knoxville, and me for the Archdiocese of Chicago. Just about 2.5 years ago, I was installed as the 6th bishop of the Diocese of Joliet in Illinois. Let me just share two quick other things about myself. I like to run. I like to run outside. I like to be athletic and exercise. However, I'm not a big fan of the cold. So in Chicagoland, my threshold is 45 degrees. If it is 45 degrees and under, I go inside. And so I have a membership to a gym. And here's the thing with the gym membership. If you tend to go to the gym on the same days, around the same time, you're going to start seeing the same people who are doing basically the same things. One example is this couple at my gym. Their pattern is they walk in the door. They're about 80 years old. They walk in the door. The man, the husband, he goes and he immediately starts working out with some light weights. And the woman waits there for her trainer. Her trainer is about 20-something. He has muscles upon muscles upon muscles. And he always wears a shirt that's about 2 sizes too small. You know the type. He kind of walks around kind of like this. And but she works out with him. He is her trainer. This one day, the husband and wife come in. He goes to the weights. She's waiting for the trainer. And the trainer and the wife wind up right next to me. They're literally exercising right next to me. I'm on my elliptical machine. But as they're next to me, I couldn't help but listening to their conversation. And in their conversation, this woman just was bombarding him with questions. How was your weekend? How are you doing in school? How is your girlfriend? And he'd answer all these questions, but then all of a sudden, she asked him a very personal question. She asked him, "Did you go to Mass this Sunday?" And sheepishly, he kind of looked at his shoes and he said, "Well, I was going to go, but..." And she interrupted him. And she goes, No buts. We've talked about this. You have to go to Mass every Sunday. I've told you, this is your source of joy. This is what's actually going to bring you happiness, not only in this life, but life eternal. And then she went on to say how you have to be nourished by the Word of God and receive Holy Communion, and why you have to do these things. And I'm listening to her, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, she's really good. She's an evangelizer. She's a missionary disciple out there in a gym. And as she's doing this, out of the blue, the husband just shows up kind of out of nowhere. And he pokes the trainer's chest and says to him, "Is she bothering you? She talks all the time." And all of a sudden, with this confidence, The trainer replied to the man by saying, "No, your wife is not bothering me at all. She's great. She really helps keep my life on track." As I reflected on what the trainer said about that woman, I thought to myself, what a wonderful thing to say about someone else. They're great. They help keep your life on track. Because think about it. No one in this world has a life that is completely on track. Do we? Does anyone have a life that's, your path is perfectly straight from birth to death? No twists, no turns, no drama, nothing? It's just perfect? If anyone is like that, I want to meet you afterwards. Life isn't that way. Thank God that we have the opportunity during Lent as a gift to get our lives back on track. The church invites us to get on track with our spiritual lives. Who hasn't gotten off track with their spiritual life? Sometimes we forget to pray. Sometimes we have doubts. Sometimes God is not in the center of our lives. Sometimes we get off track physically with what we eat or what we drink or with our diet. Sometimes we can get off track with just relationships or the balance of life between work and family and fun and faith, etc. We can get off track. So the church gives us these 40 days as a gift to get God back in the center, to get back on track, and we do so with our fasting, our prayers, and our almsgiving. In the gospel today, we have the Transfiguration. And in the Transfiguration, there's 3 steps. I call these 3 steps gather, listen, and go. Gather, listen, and go. And these 3 steps help us get our spiritual lives back on track. Watch it. Gather. 3 apostles gather with Jesus. They're right there present with him. They're on a mountain. They're gathering together. If we are going to have our spiritual lives on track, we need to gather together. That's why we're a family of God. That's why we call ourselves the church. The road to salvation is not an individual road. It's together. We gather together, and especially we gather together with the Eucharistic Lord. When 2 or 3 are present, God is with us. We gather with him. Second path, listen. While they are gathered, the voice of God the Father announces, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." God himself is telling us to listen to Jesus. If we're going to get our spiritual lives on track, we have to listen to Jesus. And friends, we can only do so with prayer. Prayer has to be a part of our lives every day. We have to every day disconnect from this crazy, busy, noisy world with our devices. Have some silence. It could be at Eucharistic adoration. It could be in your own house. It could be taking a walk. But disconnect and listen to that quiet voice of Jesus, raising your minds, hearts, and souls in prayer. And after we've gathered, after we've listened, it's go. The disciples come down from the mountain. They don't stay there. They come down and they go out, continuing their ministry with the Lord. After we have gathered, after we've listened, we as missionary disciples, we as evangelizers, we go out, continuing to put our faith into action and trying to be the face of Christ in the world. I'd just like to take this time to invite all of you to the Lenten mission. The Lenten mission. I'm preaching it. It is just one night It is in English on Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. right here in this cathedral. It's going to last an hour and a half. I'd like to invite all of you to it. I'm going to preach about the Eucharist. And why am I preaching about the Eucharist? It's because our entire country is in the middle of what's called a Eucharistic revival. A Eucharistic revival. And why are we having a Eucharistic revival? It's because there's actual studies that show that we as Catholics, we've gotten a little off track with our understanding, our love, and our valuing the Eucharist. So I'm going to preach about it. And my preaching style is exactly what you see right now. So it'll be an hour and a half of me using kind of creative stories combined with solid theology and blended with a little bit of practical Catholic spirituality. I hope to see many of you there. Give it to yourself as a gift for this Lent. Finally, as we, as a family of God, continue to journey on these 40 days of Lent, let us use those three values of the gospel today, that we continue to gather, to listen, and to go out, so that we can keep God in the center and strive to keep our lives on track.